Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar is not only a great game, it ranks up there as one of the greatest games of all time, and one of my favorites. And it's remarkable because the game almost has no plot whatsoever, dispensing even with the usual kill the big bad story common to most other RPGs of the time. You remember when I said that Ultimas 1 through 3 had probably the most basic RPG plot ever? You know, evil man rules the world, go kill him. Well, Ultima 4 doesn't even provide a villain. That's right, there's no bad guy whatsoever. What it does have, however, is a truly open-ended experience, a sense of exploration, and the opportunity to act like a hero for a change instead of just a brute with a sword killing townsfolk for easy XPs. Here, after somehow defeating the Dark Lord Exodus with magic punch cards, the land of Caesarea has unified under Lord British and been renamed Britannia. Oh, and apparently Lord British enacted a brutal policy of ethnic cleansing, because for some reason there aren't any elves, dwarves, hobbits, or bobbits, and most heartbreakingly, no fuzzies anymore. But there's still plenty of evil out there menacing the land. Lord British decides that Britannia needs a champion, one that can inspire people and combat evil, embodying all of the most noble virtues that make a hero. He basically invents a new religion, or at least a new philosophy around these virtues, basically a list of morals that's much easier to understand with a Venn diagram. There are 8 virtues, and anyone who can master all 8, then descend into the Stygian abyss and retrieve the Codex of Infinite Wisdom can become the Avatar. Oh, this is rich, coming from the guy who kidnapped a princess and kept her locked in his dungeon to keep the location of his time machine secret. I'm confused. When the world was being threatened by Mondain and Minax, I had no choice but to break murderers and demons out of jail, stab unarmed jesters for their keys, and basically destroy the space-time continuum. I'm just saying, guy's perfectly happy to let me murder everyone in sight when he needs me, and now that I've done all his dirty work and basically secured his throne for him, now he's preaching like he's some kind of moral authority, huh? Convenient. Okay, so master the 8 virtues. How do I do that? How does the game measure your worth as the Avatar? Well, mainly it boils down to not being an asshole. You know, always tell the truth, always be humble, don't kill innocent people, don't steal, always give to the poor, you know, the usual Boy Scout stuff. But there are a few virtues that might screw with you and you wouldn't necessarily know why. Like honor. Oftentimes in this game you'll be beating up on orcs when suddenly they'll just turn tail and run, and your first instinct is to bash them over the head for the experience points. Well, it will level you up, but killing a fleeing opponent is dishonorable and you'll lose status and honor. And that can get really annoying because a lot of enemies will just run away and you've always got to let them go. Sacrifice is another one that always hung me up because I had to spend hours running around donating blood, and finally I figured out a system where I'd go to the hospital in Castle Britannia and donate as much blood as I could without dying. Then I'd run upstairs and ask Lord British to heal me, which he always does for free, and then I'd run back downstairs and donate all my blood again, then go back up to get healed. That nurse must have been freaked out. Compassion always pissed me off too. To get that raised, you have to throw thousands of gold pieces at the beggars you see. No matter how much money I give this bastard, he's still there begging. Why is he still here? You could go to college with the money I gave your silly ass. What's wrong with you, man? Buy a house! Get a job, sir! Newsflash! The bum's lost! The bums will always lose! But it's not as easy as just grinding up your virtue stats. You've also got to pray at each of the shrines and complete the quests they give to you. But to pray at a shrine, you have to have the magic rune stone for each virtue, and you have to know the mantra, which basically means you have to talk to everybody on the planet to find the rune stone and to learn the mantra. If that seems lame, it's actually not. Unlike the previous games, it's good to have some clear, definite goals every time you go into a new town, and it was actually pretty cool keeping your own pen and paper journal to write down all the facts you'd learned. Basically, you'd focus on each virtue in turn and go through each step to master it. It's simple, and it worked. Getting the magic rune was always the part that hung me up. Each city has its own official virtue, like Minnock is the city of sacrifice, so the rune's hidden somewhere in the city. In this case, it's hidden in the back of the blacksmith's forge, so you actually have to climb inside the freaking thing and search every square. Why can't you just ask the blacksmith to stop using the forge for a few minutes and let it cool off? What must the blacksmith be thinking of the dumbass who just climbs inside the thing he uses to superheat steel? And how would you be in any condition to find anything while standing in a brick oven at 3 zillion degrees? To open the abyss, you have to get a bunch of artifacts together like the Skull of Mondain, which you have to destroy by throwing into the abyss. But whatever you do, don't use it from your inventory because it's so evil it'll kill everyone on the planet. I mean, geez, Mondain was so powerful that even waving a skull around can accidentally kill everyone in the world. You know, we really should have tracked down all his possessions and accomplices when we first killed him. Actually, speaking of, did anyone manage to track down those magic shards from that Gem of Immortality thing that Mondain had when I smashed it and it exploded? Anyone? Well, that's probably not a big deal. I mean, what's the odds they could hurt anyone? This game lets you have up to 7 companions, basically one for every character class, and that's a huge number for a game like this, but I tended to stick with only 2 or 3. Any more than that, and this game gets a lot slower as you control everyone in turn, and they all start eating your food. Oh, and by the way, don't get Katrina the Shepherd. She represents humility, which translates in this game to sucking at everything. What annoyed me most about the game was the spell casting. There's a lot of depth to it, but I would argue there's actually a bit too much. Each spell requires several magical reagents to cast, like garlic, nightshade, spider silk, each of which you can buy at a few particular stores. The problem is that you have to prepare each spell in advance by mixing the ingredients together like a potion, and you have to do each spell one at a time, and you have to keep the list of ingredients nearby, because there's no way you're going to remember all of them. Using the moon gates can be a real ordeal too, unless you have some kind of a guide to help you. The gates always appear in the same places, but their destinations can change depending on the phases of the moons. I had an old copy of Nintendo Power which gave me the complete rundown, but this was before the internet, so unless you were willing to stay and map every single moon gate for every single phase of every single moon, you were kinda screwed taking boats most of the time. So after braving the infinite horrors of the abyss, retrieving the codex, and becoming the avatar of the champion of virtue, what do you get? A new car! Nah, you return to Earth secure in the knowledge that you've brought a new theology of peace, love, and respect to all of Britannia, and nobody will ever be unhappy again. Well, unless someone perverts your teachings and turns it into a corrupt state religion of moral absolutism and uses that to usurp political control of the entire world, but really, what are the odds of that happening?